Hello and welcome to a Rainbow Loom tutorial video. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make your very own Rainbow Loom Charmander. And isn't he cute? And this is a really simple video and it's actually going to take not very long to make at all. I already made it and I already recorded it. Well, obviously. But I'm actually going to be narrating over the video that I've recorded because the first time I do things I don't mess up as much as the second time or third time even. So that is why I'm not going to be doing it with you guys this time. Just going to be commentating on what I've already done. And I think that'll work out better, but we'll see. So you're going to need your loom, your hook, orange bands, yellow bands, red bands, white bands, and black bands. Only 2 black bands for white bands and 4 red bands, and then just a pinch of yellow bands and half a handful of orange bands. So let's get started. Okay, so we're gonna actually want to start out with 2 orange bands, as you can see in the video, and then we're going to wrap a black band around the end 3 times, and then pull the orange bands through the black band, and this will be one of the eyes. So I'm just going to make 1 of everything that requires 2 of everything. So yeah, just expect that. And there's our 1 eye. Okay, so I've made the other eye, and now we're going to do the arms. And the arms are really simple. We're just basically putting 2 orange bands in a row, with 1 white band wrapped 3 times around the end band, and as always there are 2 of each little piece of orange bands. So there's 1 arm. So I've made the other arm, now I'm going to make the legs. So the legs are basically the same as the arms, except it's just 3 in a row, and there are still 2 on each one, and 1 white band wrapped 3 times around the end peg. And then you're just going to want to pull everything through, as you can see. And that will conclude our legs and our arms and our eyes. So this is a really simple tutorial this time. It won't take very long at all. Okay, so I'm just fixing it, and there's the leg. So as you can see, I've changed my loom, but I actually did this before I needed to. So now I'm going to make the tail. It's just 2 bands, a bunch in a row, and you'll see here how many in a row it is, because I don't remember off the top of my head. Okay, so far it's 4 in a row. Now I'm thinking, because I'm coming up with it as I go, it's completely just from my mind. So I've grabbed my yellow and red bands because I've realized that I'm going to make the flame at the end of the tail. And I started out by doing some really random stuff. So I just ended up getting rid of that. So then I started going diagonal so I could make the flame just connected to the end of the tail. So you're just going to want to do that using 2 of each band, and then you're just going to make a little rhombus with the oranges, well, not oranges, I'm sorry, reds and yellows. Then wrap the yellow band, well, the ending yellow band 3 times around the ending peg, and then just build it from there, making sure you're going to the correct one, and you're starting with the top one. So everything looks good. And throughout this tutorial, I'm also sort of going to share my thought process, that like the things I was thinking about while I was making this, so that you guys can also come up with your own designs and sort of improv on mine or someone else's, because that's really all I do. And you'll have to excuse the background noise. Alright, so I'm just taking it off, and it looks like it's too loose, but it doesn't look like that once it's all done, because I did pull on it a little bit after it was done. So here I think I'm gonna pull on it. Yeah. So just like that, and that looks a lot better. So there's the flame, and I know it's not scientifically accurate because I believe that yellow goes on the bottom, but I'm not sure. Okay, so now I'm actually starting to make Charmander, and I'm just making a little flower like shape. So you can see how my loom's set up. You're going to want to set yours up in a similar way. So I'm just going from a center peg to 5 outer pegs like that, pushing down each time so it remains easy. And then I'm wrapping the middle one around 3 times, and then I'm just going to put everything onto itself, starting with the top ones, as you can see. So this takes a long time. It doesn't take a long time, it's just really lengthy. And I'm just really slow at this. So I'm just trying to be really careful here. And I was thinking that I didn't want it to be too wide, but I didn't want it to be as wide as it would have been if I had only gone to 4 outer pegs. So that's why I did 5. And I'm starting it like this, like with the flowery shape, because I don't really mind the hole on the top of the head. It sort of makes a little hole, but it's not really noticeable. So now I'm putting the eyes on because I want the eyes to be sort of high up on the face. And I'm trying to go in a circle when I'm putting the bands on, which is why I didn't put the other eye on. But I forgot about the other eye, so I just kept going. But then I realized it, so I start taking them off. I'm just thinking, dang it. Okay, so I'm getting the other eye, putting it on there, and then finishing the circle, and then just building it. I like saying building it because it's sort of like you're building something. I don't know, that's just my perspective on it. So I'm pushing everything down like always. So some parts are sort of self-explanatory, so I'm not going to do much narration there. Alright, so now I believe I just did a row. Oh wait, no. I realized that I needed to make a mouth because we haven't made a mouth yet. So I just did that onto the side. And sometimes my camera will go out of focus because it's a really cheap camera. It is just a webcam, just an average webcam. So the mouth is the exact same as the arms, except you're going to use an orange ending band. And it makes a nice little stubby mouth or nuzzle. And I kept referring to a picture of Charmander that I had open on my internet browser so that I could get it as accurate as possible. So I just put the mouth there because I decided that I wanted that side to be the front because I wanted the eyes to be sort of centered. And then I just finished off the circle, as you can see. And then I built it. And you always want to be careful because things can go wrong really easily. So just make sure you're getting the bottom 4. Like here, I wasn't sure because I really hate that one peg because it's really crowded. The one peg I just did, that is. And so you can see from the side it's starting to look better, and I was waiting for it to focus. So yeah. And then pushing everything down like always. And then I think I just do another regular row because he's got to have some sort of head. And I was getting some more bands because just to make sure I have enough, I guess. And this definitely took less than half a bag. It really does not take very many at all. So all the while I was thinking about like the height, the width. I didn't really want it to expand anywhere or shrink anywhere because it wouldn't look right if it did, in my opinion. I was thinking about how I was going to put on the arms and legs, that sort of stuff. And the design is not perfect, but it can easily be tweaked to be perfect. So you can just sort of play around with it. Okay, so here I just did another regular row because there's not really much on this Charmander. It's very simple, as Charmander really is. So things are starting to get really crowded, and what I didn't realize was that I left the middle peg in. So you'll see soon that I'm going to get rid of that middle peg, and things will really start to open up. So here it was being sort of tricky. Yeah, but I got it. Just making sure everything's pulling over the right way. So things are starting to get really crowded. Okay, so I decided I was going to start the belly that turn, and the belly sort of row, and the belly is sort of yellowish. I didn't have any tan, so I used yellow, but you can obviously use whatever color you want. So I just put yellow on the front little side, I guess, and then I finished the circle with oranges. And like always, I'm using 2 every time. So every time I put bands in between 2 pegs, I'm using 2 bands. Okay, so I left a peg, not peg, I'm sorry. I left a band off that turned, turn. Why do I keep saying that? I don't know. I left a band off. Okay, so here I'm starting to have problems because the middle peg is still in. And you'll see how I fix that. So everything starts to come off, and thankfully it doesn't. I get it just in time. Yeah, things are starting to fall apart a little bit. So this is where I sort of, well, not really messed up, but I got a little confused. I wasn't sure which ones were supposed to be there, which ones weren't. So I keep counting, trying to count 4. 4 that I've put over, 4 still on the peg. So, yeah. And I got that one off. So now we're just going to sort of go through the rest really easily after we take that middle peg out, because that is causing me problems. So after I deal with this, which I think will be over soon enough, but if you have your own problems, you should be able to fix them unless they're really, really bad. And I think you'll know what I mean by really, really bad if you ever have a really, really bad problem. Because there's just, everything's falling apart and there's no way to know what goes where. That sort of stuff. So this turn, I'm so sorry. This round, or whatever you want to call it, I realized that the middle thing was still in and I didn't want to do that. So I'm trying to find where it goes. And it actually goes right there. And it was sort of funny how I was just so helpless. Like, where does it go? So I'm just trying to get all those bands on. And one of them's actually twisted, which will make this really hard for me. So I'm just going to put all the ones that aren't twisted on first. Like that. And then there's still one on my hook. And it's untwisted miraculously. So yeah, these things don't like to cooperate. So that one looks like it's out of place. It looks like it's out of place. It looks like it's connected to the rest of the bands on that peg. So I put it back on the peg because I was having problems with it just like the round before. So now we're going to put the arms on. And you can really play around with this. I put mine in the front. If I was going back through this, I would probably put them on the sides. So it's sort of hard for me to explain that, but you would take 2 on one side and 2 on the other side, you know, of the arm, and you would put that as the band for that row in that slot, if that makes any sense. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing with the arm on the other side, but I think it turned out okay, honestly. I thought it wouldn't turn out like it did. It turned out better than I expected, and I'm really happy with it. So if you thought mine was okay too, then just go ahead and do what I did, because somehow I did it right. Because I always do things right the first time and then mess up everything the next few times. Which is why I just recorded the first time of me doing it, because really the first time I go through it and come up with it in my head, then it turns out better than if I try to duplicate that result. So I'm just finishing off the circle with, of course, the yellow bands in the front. So that was the row after I put the arms on. Oh, and I put the arms on by putting all 4 of the little bands that the arm was connected to. Well, not 4, 2, but it made 4 in the end that were on the hook. And I slid them onto sort of the ends of the pegs, as you can see. So you're going to want to pay attention, because I'm not good at narrating at all. So now that the middle thing's gone, his head can really poke through, and you can see he's coming together really nicely. And I was really liking how that mouth turned out. So now just doing another row, and we're going to do a couple more rows. So I guess I need to say something in between, because otherwise it would be boring. This is probably boring anyways. If you're watching this, thank you. My channel is new and it has not been discovered by anyone yet. The one subscriber that I have, that is my alternate Google account, and I just subscribe to myself. So if you want to know how to make a Charizard, I've already done a video on that. You can check it out in my Rainbow Loom tutorial playlist. Okay, so I'm done with that row, pushing it through. The arms, I was starting to notice how close together the arms were, and I was starting to regret that, but I don't regret it now. I think it looks good. So now I'm going to do the exact same thing, just one more row, and at this point the only things we have left to put on are the tail and the legs. And we're almost done, just hang in with me. Wait, hang in there. Hang in with me. I don't know what that means. So it sort of looks like, is that a pentagon? It looks like a pentagon. Just a random observation. I'm not sure what to say, because it's very self-explanatory. Okay, so you can see the leg and the tail just next to me. So you definitely do not need that many yellows as I had out. You just need a handful, not even a handful, like a fourth of a handful. A very little amount. So I think I'm going to try to make a bunch of Pokemon Rainbow Loom tutorials, because I really like Pokemon. And I've made a bunch in the past, but I'm going to try to amp up their quality a bit, because I made those a couple years ago when I wasn't as good at rainbow looming. And I think I'm just going to make those for a while I try to figure out what my channel is really about, because I really want to do stuff about Pokemon. Okay, so here we're putting the legs on exactly the same as the arms. Okay, so I was starting to take the peg off instead of what I was supposed to do, and I was supposed to put the leg on before taking the peg off and then slide it on. So when I said I would make a lot of mistakes, I wasn't lying. And now we're going to put the tail on the back center peg. And then we're going to take all of the pegs off, which is always really fun. So I left a band off, and thank God I noticed it. So just gonna slide those on. And then try to put it back on. Okay, and for some reason... Okay, wait, just wait. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said anything. So, pushing everything down. And now we're gonna stuff it. Okay. Oh, okay. Something fell. We're going to stuff him. So to stuff him, you can just use broken bands, tissues, anything you want. Just a word of caution, the stuffing shows through the top of the head. So be careful how much you stuff him, because like it'll show through the top of the head, but I think it looks fine. So I used my really, really cheap hook to push everything in because it has like a rounded end. So I'm just pushing the stuffing in, and as you can see, it shows through the top of the head. So I just sort of squeezed it, and you can't really see it as much anymore. I think it looks a lot better. And you can really see what he's starting to look like. He looks like a Charmander. And at this point, I was like, yes, I've done it. So when you're at this stage, you can really tell if what you've made looks the way you want it to, because after this, there's not really much to do. So now I'm going to use my cheap hook for some reason. I don't know why I got my other hook, but I'm using my cheap hook and I'm taking everything off. I think it's because when I was doing this, I was thinking, okay, well, if it's really tense, as it tends to be, then if it bends, my hook will bend and the bands won't snap, which is actually quite logical if I think about it. So yeah, that's why I use my cheap hook. And I still have one left. The last one can be really hard sometimes, or really easy, it just depends. So I was slightly struggling, and now he's done. And if I can lower my hand a little bit, there we go. And I did not like those legs, but I think now, reconsidering it, I like the legs. I think they're good. But I was trying to figure out a way to move the legs, but it didn't really work out, and I'm sort of glad that I didn't, because I sort of like them better. Sort of. Okay, I like them better now. So now we're going to put all of those bands, well, we're going to put 2 orange bands through all of those bands. And I was sort of looking at them, I was checking them out, and I'm like, okay, this looks good. So we're going to hook those 2 bands onto there, but I decided to use my stylus, which has a cat connected to it, instead of my other hook, because I wanted to use my hook to move the bands, because I have had problems moving the bands. It's not fun at all with your fingers. Just use a hook if you can. But if you can't, then that's fine. Just use like a pencil or something to grab at them and pull them on. So we're going to pull them all onto those 2 bands, and this takes a while for me because I'm trying to be really careful. And if I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. Okay, the camera faded out. Okay, it's good. I just keep like shaking or something. I don't know. It's scaring me. So we're just going to take them off 2 at a time. I was doing them 4 at a time. 2 or 4 works. So I'm not sure why it keeps shaking. I don't know if that's me or that was my camera or something weird. I was probably shaking, but I didn't notice it. Okay. So I just used my fingers for the last ones, and at this point I have 3 bands left, but they all look like they could be the ones connected to the stylus. But 2 of them looked more connected to it than the other one, so I sort of semi-guessed, and I put that one on. So now I'm taking my other hook, I'm getting those 2 bands, and I'm going to... Okay, I was waiting for it to focus. I'm going to go through, and I'm going to pull it through very slowly, because if you do this quickly, it will break, it will snap, and you will have to start all over unless you can miraculously save every single band. So I'm going to carefully tie the ending result onto the tail. You have to do this really carefully because I have pulled tails off before doing this, but it's a good way to hide those little 2 bands you get at the end. And then I was done. So that's it. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want to see more videos. Leave a like. Bye!